with local SEO, what you're trying to do is you're building these organic roads to your business through local SEO tactics. Build a business that has a good brand, that does its job by taking care of people, providing a solution that's good. Build a good reputation, and chances are you're going to be successful in the long run. And as long as you've done your job as a business owner to provide a good solution to folks, your business is going to be propped up by the experience that consumers are having with it.
In today's episode, we're joined by Beau Graves. With nearly 20 years of marketing know-how under his belt, Beau combines his passion for content marketing and brand building to help partners hit their goals. People call him the SEO cowboy because he mixes a deep knowledge of digital marketing with his love for Western heritage and culture. Beau has helped big-name brands run seamless campaigns to get results using everything from organic search and creative content to demand generation. He's all about building solid partnerships and loves mentoring teams to bring out their best. Join us in today's episode as we explore the ins and outs of local SEO. Welcome to the show, Beau.
Thanks, Eli. I appreciate you having me.
I'm really excited to have you here. I know we've tried for a long time, actually. We've had to reschedule to make this happen, but you and I go back. I was trying to think about it before we jumped on. At least a decade. I know that we worked together at Young Living. You helped us out there. Did you help us out at Extra Space Storage?
So I came in right at the end of your Extra Space Storage.
Okay, because I go back even further with Andrew. I worked with him at Inside Sales and at Orange Soda, and that's where he and I connected. So it's been over a decade then, and we've been good friends. Everywhere I go, you've been a super good help, and I know you're still helping the team there a little bit now. And so thanks for everything that you've done to help my career and to make me look good up to this point. I appreciate all of that.
Really?
Yeah, so
It's been a wild ride.
I know, right? But I'm excited to jump in and learn from you today. So today's topic, we're going to talk about local SEO, and you've been doing it for a long time. You've helped in a lot of different areas in the past, me specifically, and I know you work at an agency, and that's a big part of what you do there as well. And you have a lot of knowledge, and so I'm excited about that. But I know we've done a few lunches, we've got to know each other a little bit, but I don't know if I really know the full Beau. So let's start just like every other podcast, and let's get to know you a little bit better. So Beau, where are you from? Where'd you grow up? What did you want to be when you were little? And how'd you go from there to getting into the digital world?
So I grew up in Orem, Utah. I was born and raised same house my whole life until I was married. So I grew up what used to be in a farm field area of Orem that no one would ever believe is farm field areas now. And kind of watched that whole area morph from farm field to now it's pretty much just it is in the shadows of UVU and pretty much just a college town. So pretty crazy to see that change. But yeah, I was born to two amazing parents, both of which one was from Utah, the other one was originally from California. And grew up in a farm town as well in California, moved to Utah. I was the youngest of three. My older brother, who's just older than me, is 14 years older than me. So I pretty much grew up an only child. So in fact, when they were both out of the house, I was like 5. So I don't even remember that. So anything that I do remember was pretty much without my brother and sister around. But we're a close family and have stayed close, obviously, over the years. But growing up as a kid, I probably had all the crazy job aspirations. The jobs that I can remember wanting to do as a kid, as a small kid, I remember how you have like that what do you want to be when you grow up moment in probably junior high is what I'm remembering. I remember writing down that I wanted to be a judge, and it was because my mom said I could debate with anybody, and I loved debating. And so they always just thought I was going to end up being a lawyer or something and then end up being a judge. And I don't know what happened to that, but that must have been like a flicker because that didn't last very long. It's funny, I actually really struggled in school. School was hard for me. I didn't do well with traditional learning. And I look back on it now, and that's a real thing. Like, video learning and application is how I learn. I'm much more of a consumer when it comes to those things. I have a little bit of ADD. That's part of the issue is I like to bounce around a little bit. You ever seen that movie Up where he's like, squirrel? That's totally me. Like, one little thing takes me off, and now I'm like, okay, I'm very interested in this. And I'm supposed to be learning this core concept. And then I go off and I learn this path for like 30 minutes. And I'm like, oh man, I'm supposed to be back on this path, And that's 100% me. So I I definitely struggled with traditional learning and found my way through school by um, getting into the topics that I was interested in. And I tended to be interested in things that usually involves using my hands. I really enjoyed more of like that blue collar world and loved history as well. But man, I just like despised math and English and all those types of things, which is really funny now looking back on it. And so I wanted out of school. I I didn't want to do school anymore. If I could have in 10th grade, most of my friends that I was close to were older than me. So in 11th grade, they were graduating and I wanted out. Like I just did not want anything to do with school anymore. I had no interest in going to college and I just wanted to go work. I wanted to get out and just go work. Part of that is I was a little bit, I wouldn't say I was entrepreneurial from an entrepreneur standpoint. I was entrepreneur that I wanted to earn money and have things. Most of the things that I got, I earned. My parents were really good about teaching me those skills as a kid. And so, I was the kid that mowed 5 to 10 lawns in the neighborhood and did odd jobs to be able to earn my first bike and my first kit of golf clubs, honestly, and things like that I wanted. And it was such a good experience, but I just wanted to earn more money. I wanted to get out of school and wanted out. So when I was done with high school, I was done. I didn't want to go to school at all. Like no interest at all whatsoever. I just wanted to work. So first job out of high school, I picked probably one of the hardest jobs, which was framing
Oh yeah.
houses, and started framing houses for 6.13 an hour,
Mm,
which is crazy to think. That was my first
so long
job.
ago.
Oh yeah, and I made more money mowing lawns and even like one of my first high school jobs, the part-time jobs, I made more money than I did in my first full-time job, but it was really good for me, taught me a ton, met some good people in that experience, and then did that for a summer, got out of that, went to another job, and I just kind of did that job to job to job thing for a little while, right? Trying to just find my way, figure out who I was. Well, I decided I wanted to get married, and that I needed something a little bit more secure. So I had actually my wife's brother offered me a job to come work landscaping for him. So I went and did landscaping, and I did about a year and a half of that and realized that blue collar probably just wasn't for me. Mostly because I really enjoyed it, but and I actually love still running machines. My brother-in-law still owns a landscaping company, so I get to steal his machines and go dig around in my backyard every once in a while, which is pretty fun. So I still love that part of it, but I really really enjoyed using my mind, being creative and those types of things. And so super funny how I entered this space. I was talking to my dad one day and I was like, Dad, I don't know what to do. For you newly married, money's hard, life's hard, trying to figure out how to get that next, bump and increase in life. And I was talking to him and he's like, oh man, I was probably making 9.5 at that point. And I was like, Dad, I need something that can get me into the teens, And I was talking to him and he's like, oh man, I have this person that works for me and her husband is trying to find people and he's paying 17 bucks an hour and can't find anybody to work for him. And I'm like, I'll take 17 bucks an hour. I don't know what that looks like, but I'll jump to making from 9 to 17. I'll do whatever it takes. And so I went and had a conversation with him and I had literally zero experience. I had a little bit And I probably fluffed the experience of I built a website once, and I had built a website once and pushed my way into this job. And I didn't get the 17 bucks an hour, but I got 13 bucks an hour, which was pretty good. It's a $4 raise. So I started this job, and what that job ended up being is I helped small businesses be able to build their business and taught them the skills necessary in order to be able to do that. So I learned very quickly with my peers and tried to understand how to build a website, how to market a business, how to get that business online, how to source products, how to build a business plan. And that was really, really good for me. And man, about a year and a half of that, and the '08 crash happened, and the business needed to make a change, and they actually ended up laying off my boss, and they put me in charge. And I was the boss of 22 people at the age 22. And it was pretty crazy. I was managing three different teams, and it was pretty fascinating to see kind of what was happening in the world. And man, you remember '08, it was gnarly. And it was kind of crazy. And looking back on it, I was the cheap solution, to put in place. But honestly, it was an incredible experience for me to be able to manage teams and build leaders. And because I not only took over 22 people, I actually took over leaders that I had to help grow. And man, I hadn't really been a leader other than being a foreman for a landscaping company for a little bit. So I was not only learning marketing, SEO, advertising, but I was also learning how to be a leader. Fast forward 6 years of that, I got laid off. Finally, it was my turn to get laid off, and I didn't know what to do with my life. I was having kind of that like mid career crash. Do I stay in marketing? And man, if you remember that time, I was slinging resumes left and right trying to find a job, and it was super hard. And I was lucky enough to get picked up by another agency and had kind of a crossroads decision of two different ways to go in my life. And honestly, just put it up to the powers that be and said, whatever way is meant to be, I'll go. And so I went. I ended up in an agency and worked in an agency for about a year and a half. And someone I had worked with previously at that old job was here at Avalanche and recruited me over and said, I really need your help. And I had worked with the owners of the Avalanche actually prior to that. And they didn't want another person like me who had what they expected to be a predefined skill set, because they figured they had enough of that. But then I actually went to lunch with them and kind of impressed them with my knowledge and experience, and got the job and moved laterally a little bit. I was managing teams at that other company. And so I came here not managing teams originally, and just kind of dug in as an SEO. And that's what they hired me for literally almost 10 years ago. So in December, I've been here at Avalanche for 10 years. And so I started helping build up our SEO division here at Avalanche. Prior to me, obviously, it was just the one person, and then I grew and developed that. And then I've watched Avalanche morph with me over time of running and supporting the SEO division to running and supporting our strategist division, and working on the executive team over those years. So it's been really great and a good run. And man, that's how I ended up here.
Do you feel like that the skill set you had to be a judge has made you who you are today? Do you feel like your website traffic is kind of in a slump right now? Or maybe over the last couple of weeks or months, it's actually dipped quite a bit and you cannot figure out what to do next? Go to fireusmarketing.com/meeting to schedule a free meeting with me where we can look at your website, talk about your frustrations, and see if there's anything that I can do to help you out. The meeting is absolutely free. There's no strings attached. If I can help you, I'd love to. Again, go to fireusmarketing.com/meeting. We'll talk to you soon.
In some settings, because I would say One of the things that's really difficult about working with marketing folks and business owners is marketing in general is fairly opinion based, right? There's a lot of opinion that goes into marketing. There's certainly data and facts, right? But there's a lot of opinion on how you can go about doing a lot of things that have to do with marketing. And there's a lot of roads that can get you there. And one thing that I've had to learn is how to continue to be a challenger. It's funny because looking back, you asked that question about being a judge. I don't know what changed from 12-year-old Beau to or 38-year-old Beau. I actually hate confrontation. I don't like a lot of confrontation. I don't mind being in a hard position where I have to talk through difficult situations. That's not a problem at all. I like to hear people out and hear their side of the story and, kind of debate to a point. But I would have made a terrible lawyer, man. I don't know how I would have ever survived that because I'm not a big confrontation person.
I feel like from a lawyer standpoint, that makes sense, but from a judge standpoint, they do sit back, they listen to both sides of the story, they build that strategy, and I think that's maybe the strategic mind that you have, right? Because you can see the full picture and then make that decision.
That's a good point for sure. I like that.
I was gonna bring up, you got a lot to unpack from there. So I was gonna bring up that I don't know if we've talked about this before, but I also struggled in school. I didn't like traditional school. I've talked about this in the past on podcasts where as soon as like audiobooks came out and the technology on the phones to like read to you, I still do that. I still have my phone read every text to me for the most part, unless it's like a sentence or two. But especially when I'm responding back, if it's a text or an email, I want to make sure I'm not missing something, and my eyes don't see it the way that my ears hear it. And so I'll have the whole entire email read to me. And it drives my wife crazy if she's down in my office working or doing something with me. And I'm like listening to this whole email back. And I found that my kids are kind of the same way. I have a few kids that are the same way. And I'm grateful that we have that technology now to their computers read to them, right? Like I have two of them that do online school, and most of the programs they have are like ADA compliant as well. And they just have a button they push and it reads the whole page, which is nice. I wish I would have had that. And I question where I would be these days if I would have had that back then. But I think some of the struggles we went through in school because of that probably made us both who we are today as well. So that's a fun story. Getting to where you're at, and I know you've done a lot of good things for Avalanche. And I talked to the owners before. I respect those guys, and I've never had a bad experience with anybody at Avalanche. So you guys got a good thing going there, for sure.
Wow, that's great to hear. That makes me proud that you've had nothing but good things to say. So
Well, there's a lot of agencies out there that give agencies a bad name, right? They're either like too conveyor belty, where they're just like, come in, we'll take care of you in this way, this way, this way, and then get out. And there are other agencies that I think they're just in it for the money. They get the really long contracts. They don't really have a good process to take care of people. And so when clients come to me, and I'm sure you've had the same experience, they're like, I mean, I'll give this one agency a try, but I'm done after this. If this doesn't work, I'm done because I've been burnt too many times. And I think it's super sad and unfortunate. And I want to try to change that connotation around agencies. And I don't know if we'll be able to with all the bad agencies that are out there, but hopefully if you're listening and you're an agency owner or a consultant or something, like do what's right for the client all the time, because you make the rest of us look bad if you're not. Right.
agreed, for
So,
sure.
Beau, what are you working on right now that excites you?
I've got some fun clients right now that are in interesting points of their business history, I would say. And one of the projects that I'm working on that's really interesting. I've got a fairly storied digital background, right? But one new thing that's newer to Avalanche, and we've been fortunate enough to actually be able to hire a few folks that it's not new to, and we've been able to learn from them, is traditional advertising and doing a lot more of the traditional media buys, billboard and radio and print and non-traditional print and all sorts of different ad buys. And it's been really fun to learn that side of it and learn how much those types of things can impact businesses. And one thing that we're working on really closely as an agency, because we've got decades of digital experiences, is trying to figure out how to bridge the gap to tell the full story that really can resonate and help businesses be able to learn and grow. And it's super funny that it's kind of happening at the timing that we are, because the world of digital attribution is starting to fall away, right? There's still digital attribution, but this traditional world has never had attribution and isn't used to that, right? That was for years and years and years. That was the reason you went digital, is because you could have the attribution, right? And man, the day and age that we sit in today with traditional digital attribution falling off, no attribution with traditional, the world of dark social and the impact that it plays into our lives as well as advertisers and marketers. It's really, really interesting to see all of that start to combine, and businesses and marketers and agencies are having to get more creative in a way of being able to measure impact instead of having just traditional attribution. And I know lots of people are on the different they're in different parts of that journey right now. Whether you're a business or you're an agency, you're trying to figure that we're all trying to figure that along. And the reason I feel like it's not a perfect science is every business is different. Every business has different needs. Maybe they have had attribution and right now it's killing them that they don't, or maybe they've never had attribution and have never really had goals established and have really never successfully ran a P&L or whatever, but they're still successful, right? There's tons of businesses. As you start to crack the door on businesses, especially being on the agency side, right? I've seen thousands of them now at this point. You start to crack the doors on agencies, it's pretty on businesses. It's pretty surprising what you end up finding, that a lot of businesses are actually running on a lot less than you would expect outside looking
I've
in.
heard that. I've heard that you'd be surprised if you could open the doors and look into a lot of them. I've heard you'd be really surprised how they're ran.
Yeah, it's really crazy to see. And then the smallest will come and they're like buttoned up, man. They're like detailed and dialed and they're down to the numbers and you're like, "Holy smokes, like that you do things better than some Fortune 50 companies that I've seen run." So, it's pretty awesome. It's really cool to see that, but the kind of going back to what's fun is explaining all of that. That's really challenging. It's a really challenging place to be as an advertiser, marketer in this day and age. And that's fun for me, trying to figure out how all the different advertising and marketing channels work together and create models that support budgets and future initiatives and things like that is really fun and really hard at the same time. And some businesses right now are, as a lot of people are struggling with budgets and reducing costs and volume, and how do we take away market share, because that's the only way that I'm going to get more for my business is to steal market share from competitors, because I'm in a declining segment or vertical or whatever, right? And so trying to crack the code on that, and as a strategist, trying to pinpoint and make the right decisions on where to put budget for businesses, because that's part of my role right here at Avalanche. Is I'm a fractional chief marketing officer, so I make some of those budget decisions. And it can be really, really hard, man. You, especially for someone like me, I'm actually a perfectionist, and that's a good and a bad thing. It's a good thing in a lot of ways, but it's bad because I second guess myself constantly of like, should I put this $5,000 here or shouldn't I? And so, I tend to be the one that likes to make decisions based on data, or at least directionally sound data. And I'm having to create that a little bit on my own, and build some of those models. And luckily, I have friends that are way smarter than me, And so I'm able to leverage those friendships to be able to help me try and make those the best decisions for my partners.
I think every book that's out there says surround yourself with smarter people than you, right? Every leadership book specifically says if you surround yourself with people that are smarter than you, you'll be the best leader out there. And so having good relationships and people that you can bounce ideas off of and really like fine tune that strategy, I think helps. And I think that makes you a good leader who's willing to do that, because a lot of people are too stubborn. There's a lot of people who are like, nobody can do it better than me. There's a book that I read a little while ago called Buying Back Your Time. It's awesome if you haven't read it. And it's so good. I can't remember the author's name off the top of my head. I'll find it and I'll put it in the show notes. But basically what he says is he goes, if you can find somebody to do 80% as good as you in today's day, you can do it for 75% of the cost. So you can save 75%, pay somebody 25% of the cost, and you can get 80% of the way there. He goes, as a leader, that's how you scale your business. And then from there, you can polish up. If they're doing 80% as good, you can make it better over time and fix those processes and stuff like that. But let's dive into the fun part. Let's dive into what is local SEO. Let's the tactics and stuff like that. So let just kind of at a high level, people hear SEO and then they hear international SEO, regional SEO, national SEO, local SEO. There's a lot of different types. There's specifics on B2B SEO and e-commerce SEO. And we have a podcast around each of those, but this one specifically is local SEO. So tell us, what is local SEO and why is it important for local businesses to make it happen with their business?
Yeah, it's a great question. So, if you ask any SEO what local SEO is, they're going to tell you, it's just that. It's doing SEO for a business that's trying to get local based results. Basically, with local SEO, what you're trying to do is you're building these organic roads to your business through local SEO tactics. And those local SEO tactics in a lot of ways are actually much different than doing international SEO, just regular SEO for a B2B business, lead gen business, e-com business. Each one of those definitely has different tactics that you're going to take. And local SEO is one that I've really loved because I've been able to be a part of that from the very beginning and kind of watch it mature and grow and watch Google Business Profile go through like 15 name changes over 10 years. And it's something new everywhere. I mean, dude, luckily it didn't take me super long to go from Google My Business to Google Business Profile because I didn't love Google My Business in the first
I
place.
still
But
call it Google My Business. The good thing is that Google has done their SEO well. So no matter what of the 15 names it's had, it still pulls up. So no matter what it's called.
oh man. Yeah, Google Places. It doesn't matter. Yeah, exactly. Because everybody in the world is linked to something different than it's been called to, and Google still pulls up for that. But it's been very, very interesting to watch the landscape of local SEO play out. And the nice part I feel like today is as it sits, it's no different than any other SEO play. The end result is have a stellar brand, get good reviews, and you can be successful. Pure and simple. And I think that's any business, right? Build a business that has a good brand, that does its job by taking care of people, providing a solution that's good, build a good reputation, and chances are you're going to be successful in the long run. You may have some bumps in the road. You may have times where you're like, what the hell? Why is that person outranking me? And that happens a lot, right? I get business owners coming to me and like, man, this business sucks. I cannot believe they're ranking. Well, they've maybe been investing in their SEO longer than you have, and they've been putting time and effort. And there's still for sure things, I call it Google poo, which is Google poo means there's something happening that shouldn't be happening, right? On Google. And it happens all the time. It's they're breaking rules, they're doing things they shouldn't be. They've got some voodoo wizardry magic that's happening, and it's happening and it's working for them, and I can't figure out what it is. And, for some reason, there's still Google poo, and there always will be. Um, that's never going to change. Someone has figured out how to game the algorithm, and eventually Google will figure it out, and eventually they will get smacked. So that's why I don't play that game and never have. I always have just focused on best practices for the business because I'm here to play the long game, not the short game. There's certainly a business methodology to play the short game, right? If you're trying to build something to sell it and you're trying to get quick results and get out of it in 18 months, there's a play there for sure. I'm not willing to do gray hat, black hat stuff to help you get there. Those that are out there that are, but that's not a game I play. And I'm in it for the long haul. And we want to support businesses that have that same mindset.
Seems a little unethical to do that, even if you have that exit strategy. I had a similar conversation with a client this week where I was like, here's what we see in the search results. And he's like, "Man, I don't understand how they have like thousands of reviews and I have 100 and something reviews." And he's like, he's outranking me everywhere. And I started looking at it and I'm like, these are all purchased reviews. You can see the name. They don't actually have a review. It's just the star. They've never reviewed anywhere else. Like you can see those patterns. And he goes, well, can you do that for me? And I had to explain the same thing. I'm like, it's not a good long-term play. Eventually Google's going to find that, going to smack them down, and you are here for the long term. So I appreciate that. So, okay. So everything you just said is the what of local SEO. Let's dig into the strategy of the how. So if I'm a business owner out there, I'm listening to this and I'm like, okay, I'm hearing you say, Google Business Profile. I'm hearing you say these words. Like what does that mean? So how do I actually do SEO on my website in Google My Business, Google Places, whatever we call it? How do I do that?
It's a really good thought. So, like anything else of SEO, I kind of have like three main bucket components that I work out of. And the buckets have stayed the same, but what's inside the bucket has changed over time. But the main methodology of the three buckets is the same. So it's like you have your technical SEO, which is you're making sure that the technicality of what needs to be done is done correctly. So you're crawlable, you're searchable, you're findable. Google likes what they're seeing, all of those types of things, right? So that technical SEO still exists in local, international, whatever. Then there's your content section, right? So there's the content section or on-site. Some people call on-site SEO, but that content section of SEO still exists. And then there's what they call offsite SEO, right? Which is anything that happens offsite. And in a lot of cases, and for a lot of people, that means link building. In 2024, depending on where your business is and what you're doing, link building could work, and link building might not even be a factor at all, right? And so it depends. It very much depends on your business and your industry, your competition, your marketplace, all that stuff. But we kind of factor those things into those three buckets. With local SEO, the things that change a little bit is kind of where you prioritize your time. So with local SEO, there's still components that you have to have. You have to have a website. You have to have a place that you can send people from the local profiles that are out there. Google Business Profile is certainly the biggest of them all. But from the local profiles that are out there, you want to have a place that someone can go from those profiles to learn more about your business, be able to tell your story and talk about who you are and your solutions that you offer and all those types of things. So you still need to have a website, and a website can be so different for every business, right? If you're a taco shop, your website can be pretty minimal, right? You can still do some pretty awesome things with that website. But from a decision making standpoint of if I'm actually going to go to you and get tacos from your taco stand, can probably be less impacted by your website than many other components there, right? And so we can talk about those components later. But you still want to have a website to some degree. That website should be in good standings with Google. It should comply with all of the necessary things that it should. And then there's going to be certainly plenty of best practices that you're going to want to provide on that website in order for the local SEO ecosystem to work properly. And so making sure that you have good content, a good experience, good page speed, good information about your business, a good engaging experience on your website, information that's helpful, not SEO'd, right? That's actually something that I'm seeing a lot of now, especially with this most recent core algorithm update. One of the main components, if you read the information, like if you use a tool called Ahrefs or SEMrush, inside of Ahrefs' description of the core algorithm update that came out in August, it actually says that Google is penalizing websites that look to be gaming or trying to manipulate the search engines, right? That is something that actually is happening. And so you don't want to be doing that in 2024. You don't want to be gaming. You want to focus on the end user, as any business should, right? If you had a person in front of you and you were trying to sell them on your business, half the stuff you have on your website you probably wouldn't talk about. And so it's if they're in front of you, what would you tell them to sell them on you or your business? And that's what your website should reflect today in 2024 is how would you get that person to purchase from you? And so it's really important to have those components. And then you have to have a good offsite plan. And the offsite plan still today is very important to make sure you have those business profiles set up. And so we will still do basic citation building for businesses to just make sure their citations are clean and good to go. If they're not clean, if you don't put good information out there about your business, guess what? It still gets syndicated by thousands and hundreds of thousands of websites, and then misinformation is syndicated to the world, and that's bad. And it's confusing. And so if you can start with Google Business Profile, you can get a really good standard of information there, make sure that all the correct information is there, and then make sure that inside of the rest of the citations that are out there, the core 25 that syndicate to the other thousands, those are going to be really important for your business to make sure that you have properly in place. They understand how to find you, where you're located, all of those types of things. And typically, with those offsite profiles, you're going to have some component of being able to get folks to your business through information that they provide, right? So the information can be not only information about your business, but also reviews. And obviously, Google Business Profile has a great review platform. And then also, as part of those reviews can come user generated content, images, obviously the review portion of it, videos, and all of that stuff. And when others are talking about your business, and as long as you've done your job as a business owner to provide a good solution to folks, your business is going to be propped up by the experience that consumers are having with you.
Yeah. Out of all three of those buckets, is there one that's more important than the other, or are they all about as equally important?
That's such a good question. The hard part is, like, if you were to say, where do you start today? You kind of have to have the horse before the cart, right? You have to. Can't have the cart before the horse. And so you can start building some of those profiles, but then if you're sending them to a bad place, that's not good, right? Luckily, with Google Business Profile being such an impactful component of local SEO, like, for sure, because of how the SERPs have changed, Google Business Profile, the map pack is like, if you're there, you're loving life. If you're not there, you're hating life, because of how I actually had to show a business owner how much it's changed in 1 year. And that SERP has changed exponentially in 1 year because of AI overviews, because of how big that and engaging and impactful that map pack is now. It's like it takes up the whole damn screen now, it's humongous. And if you have ads on top of that, ads are like the top of the page. and then and then you're going to get to those things. And then if people also ask was introduced in, and you have an AI overview, which AI overviews don't tend to overlap Google business or the map pack super often, um, because they tend to fall into more of the informational side of things. But if all of those components are playing against you, man, you are far down on the page if you're not inside the local map pack, right? Because even if you're number one in natural search and organic and you're not in the map pack, man, you're pretty far down the page at
For
this
sure.
point.
There's a lot of real estate there that was not there a couple of years ago. Yeah.
Yeah, totally. So that cert page has changed so much that it can impact businesses quite a bit. And so Google Business Profile is for sure where I would put a large part of my initial build out time, effort, making sure that people know about it, trying to get reviews to it when possible, and then building out your website for sure. Those two things can actually impact each other quite a bit. If you're doing well in natural search and organic with your website, chances are you're probably doing okay in the Google Business Profile as well and in map pack results. I have a client, unfortunately, that is not doing well in organic search and natural search with their website, but still is surviving off of what their Google Business Profile is providing them. But it can definitely help if those two are working together. And usually that means you've built a strong enough brand that your brand is sustaining both.
Yeah.
So
How important is it to have like a localized landing page that is linked to from all those citations versus just like a contact us page? I see a lot of clients who build that out and then they link to the homepage or they link to the contact us page versus having like a localized page. Like tell me the difference and why it's important to have one versus the other.
I personally think it comes down to business strategy. If let's say for instance you're a credit union, right? If you're a credit union, you would want to dump someone on a branch page. You'd want to put them on a branch page that's local based to that location so that when someone is they hit the map pack, they see your branch, and they decide to go to the website for more information, they end up hitting the information to that branch page to be able to see more information about that branch. That could be, the folks who you're going to see at the branch. That could be how they're serviced, hours of operation, more information about that location, maybe getting them right into, hey, these are the loans we offer, and those types of things, right? Too, as well. It just kind of depends on the business, maybe even potentially other branches in the area. There might be a good reason to put all of those types of things on that page. But then it's like if I take my taco card example, it's like you dump them on your homepage if it's a taco cart, right? Because chances are you have one location and you want them to see the experience and you want to get them going to the experience and see more information and maybe a gallery of images and what you offer in a menu, right? That's probably one of the most important things you would be seeking is to try and find more about the business and the menu and what they offer. If we're talking about a plumber, right? So let's say you want to link over to your website. It's where do you send that person on a plumbing website? Well, if it were me, I would send them to hopefully a very well curated homepage that has a really good experience that pushes that person through why they would want to use you and your plumbing services and what you have to offer. And the challenge is it's like, well, I'm a plumber in Ogden, I'm a plumber in Salt Lake, I'm a plumber in Utah County. I service all three of these locations, and how do I get them to know, what's the right one for them and make sure I'm relatable. And that's a really difficult thing. I would say it really comes down to the business to make that decision as to where to point them from the Google Business
Yeah,
Profile.
I've seen in that plumbing example, I've seen some work and some not work where you build out all these location pages that are like, I help all these areas, right? Like I think it's different if you're trying to rank there for a specific like digital service versus like an actual service where people are going. We have a client that came to us and they built out, a location page for all 50 states. When I first saw it, I was like, oh my gosh, this is going to be a disaster. And as I started digging into the results, it actually really works for them, like really well. And we started optimizing those pages and it's just really taken off. So again, I think you're right. It depends on the business. It depends on the industry they're in. It depends on if you actually have a location versus not have a location, the types of services you offer, all of that.
Yeah, and if your location, maybe there's location-based needs as well, right? Maybe the service you provide is different in Arizona than the service you provide in Washington, right? And so certainly, like it can work for your business, and I definitely think it just comes down to being a business decision. One pro tip that I will say on that link: always make sure that you're tracking it with UTMs. And until Google smacks that, which hopefully they never do, but until Google smacks that, it's your best way of knowing if Google Business Profile is actually performing for you. And so I definitely highly encourage UTM tracking with your whatever link you
So
go
just go into Google Analytics and set up the UTM tracking and use it there. Is that the way you would recommend?
if you type in Google, type in Google UTM builder, it'll give you a builder that helps you build a URL. So then you would throw in your URL. I actually do it now for most of my businesses in a spreadsheet because most of my businesses were tracking UTM, trying to get that as much of that digital attribution that we still can, right? But we'll bid it in a spreadsheet and then you can put in your source, medium, all of that stuff. And so I still will track Google Business Profile results. In fact, most of my clients, the UTM actually has GMB in it because I did it was Google My Business forever, and I'm not going to go back and change it now because I don't want to kill my attribution. But yeah, like you can put whatever you need to in there. I always recommend to everybody, best practices is make sure that it's all lowercase. Don't ever use uppercases in your UTMs, but build a UTM URL that you can put in that Google Business Profile to be able to track that. So for if you have that branch scenario or if you have multiple locations, then you can know how each location is performing. And if you can track it through to form fills and you've got good conversion tracking in your GA4 setup, you can know exactly what's happening. And so I know how my business are performing through local search. And oddly enough, I have one that's a pretty national brand. For whatever reason, the Google Business Profile shows up even outside of our state. And when that does, people are actually clicking on that quite a bit and then going through and filling out a form. And so I highly recommend making sure that you have UTM tracking on that so that you can know how that's performing
Yeah.
for you.
Bo, I feel like we probably need a part two. There's so many questions I still have for you, but just kind of to wrap up this session, I actually might pull you back for a second session because I still have like 500 more questions. But to wrap this one up, tell me where the future of local SEO is going. I know there's a lot of AI and regular SEO, and there's a lot of new technologies coming out and stuff. From a local SEO standpoint, where do we see the future going and how can businesses keep up with that so that they're ahead of their competitor when the time comes?
I actually had a seed planted on this, and I'm gonna give a friend credit because he said this to me and I was like, "Oh, damn. Yeah, that's probably where it's headed." And I was pretty fascinated by the idea, but that friend, his name's Max Pond. He actually used to work for Avalanche. Now he's working in-house, but we went to lunch a little while back and he's like, "You know what? I think the future of where local SEO is going, it's going to be very very much dictated by AI, and eventually AI will be controlling that. And right now for Google, that's Gemini, and eventually." He's like, "I really believe there'll be a day where you can go in and say, show me the best pest control companies with the highest reviews that have had, high review rate or a high success rate or whatever near me, right? And so it's like, yeah, right now it's like you're kind of doing that on your own. If you go and type in, best pest control near me, you kind of have to do your own work there, right? Like I use Google for food a lot, right? And it still sucks. Like so I not it doesn't suck. It's a great tool. But if I say best tacos open near me, I still have to do a little bit of work on my end to find the best tacos near me, right? And eventually he was like, I see that being the future is like, show me the best pest controls companies near me with the highest reviews. And I actually think that'll be a thing. And what will be impacted is the signals and the makeup of how the AI comes to the decision there. And I think if we get there, there's probably very little gaming the system at that point. If search changes that much, where we're actually able to do that, hey Google, show me the best pest control companies near me with the highest rating. If that's a thing, it has to be really good at its job in order to be able to provide that result, right? And I actually don't think there's really a great way to game that in the long-term realm of things. And so manipulating search engines is going to become increasingly difficult because it's going to be hard to manipulate AI in a lot of cases, I
Yeah,
think.
I've
So,
actually used that exact scenario in the past, and I told my wife, I was like, I can't wait until this happens. So I was driving up in Draper. I think I went to a funeral, and I was like, I want birria tacos. I was craving them, and I was like, I gotta have them. And so what I do sometimes, now that like ChatGPT has the voice thing, I'll put the voice thing up and I'll like talk back and forth while I'm driving about marketing and different ideas and brainstorm and like taking notes so that when I get home I have that. And so I had ChatGPT pulled up and I was like, based on this location in Draper, Utah, here's kind of where I'm at. Tell me where the best birria tacos are. And I gave it like this whole list of things and it gave me the list of places to go, but it didn't connect to my maps. It didn't say, "Do you want me to give you directions?" It didn't, and I think that's probably the next step, connecting those. And I think Google's probably closer to doing that since they already have the maps and all of that. But I think you're right on from a local standpoint.
long term, it's you're going to be talking to your car telling it to do that for you, right? For sure. And long term, you're probably going to have some weird screen up on the window. I don't know.
Well,
Who
in the
knows
glasses,
where
yeah,
we'll
have you
get,
seen the
right?
glasses that have
Yeah,
augmented
exactly.
reality and all that?
Oh, yeah.
But I wanna go back to one point that you made that I just want to kind of like reiterate. If business owners are still listening right now, first of all, thank you for getting all the way into this podcast this far in. Okay, listen up real quick. I promise I'm going to get you right back to the episode. But are you frustrated that your product or service isn't getting the right amount of visibility it deserves online? If so, and you want my help guiding you through the SEO optimization, go to fireusmarketing.com/SEO to get my free SEO guide. Talks about all levels of SEO: local SEO, regional SEO, national SEO, and international SEO. It should give you everything you need to optimize your website at a basic level. If you'd like help beyond that, feel free to hit me up at fireusmarketing.com. I'd be happy to jump on a call and talk through your needs. Now let's get back to this episode.
Sorry for putting up with 17 minutes about me.
Oh, it's fine. We wanted to learn who Beau was, so we appreciate that. But I think
Okay.
one thing I want to really reiterate is if you do not have your Google business profile set up, go do that today. Like it's free. It'll take you 20 minutes to set up. Go and do that right now. I can't tell you how many people, like solicitors, come to my door and they're like, "Hey, we'll clean your windows. Hey, we'll put up Christmas lights. Hey, we'll do this." And I'm like, "Great. Give me a card." And they give me a card and I'll go look online. They're nowhere to be found. And I like a lot of them are like teenagers just starting businesses. Every single one of them, I say, "Look, go Google this. It takes 20 minutes, get it set up." Because I just got my Christmas lights put up for the second time this year, and I will leave a review if they have it, but they don't have it yet. Like I would go leave a review. I would tell my friends and family about it. People who clean windows, people who put up lights, people who, they don't necessarily have a brick and mortar location. You can build the website later. Go build and optimize your Google My Business profile right now. Like if you're listening this far in and you haven't done that, go do it right now. Would you agree?
Can I can I add a pro
Yes.
tip? While you're at it, go and claim and manage your business on Apple Maps as well, because Apple Maps now has the desktop indexable version of their Apple Maps that they've never had before. Everything ran through the Apple Maps app on your phone. And now we have a desktop version of that that is indexable and being seen in search to a varying degree. But eventually, just like we talked about how things are going to change with AI, with Apple Intelligence coming out and Apple being a massive, massive, massive part of the marketplace with the phones they provide, you will have people making those searches on their phone, and they will be controlled by what Apple Intelligence gives them. And if you're not on Apple Maps, you're in trouble. So I would highly recommend claiming your business on Apple Maps alongside Google Business
Yeah, I love
Profile.
that. Beau, thank you so much for taking the time to join us today on this episode. Again, I think we probably will have a part two, but I think that if people are listening, they've got a lot of good golden nuggets to go take away that'll give them some time between now and the next time we meet. So thanks again for joining us. I appreciate it.
You're welcome, man. Thanks for having me. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely. And to everyone else who's listening out there, we'll talk to you guys next week.